Hey there. So in this session, we're going to dive into inherently, like, how do we influence those around us to change, essentially, right? Because we've all had the experience, probably, especially if you have been on a path of personal development before. If you've taken on beneficial lifestyle changes for yourself, whether that was eating better, or managing emotions better, or you started saving money and you weren't saving money before, so you're following a financial plan and you've never followed one before. It doesn't really matter the way in which you're enhancing yourself in your life, and in which way you're bettering yourself. Those around you are going to respond to that change in a particular way. And so often when we decide that we want to be on a path of growth, or a path of development, a path of transformation, or mastery even, we want those around us to be on that path with us, because we want to grow together. And oftentimes in the initial part of that journey, the people around us are not only not willing to jump on that ride with us, they're not willing to change initially, but oftentimes they have a bit of resistance to it, right? They don't want to change, and they don't really want you to change either. And a lot of times this is surprising to people, because it's like, well, I'm becoming a better person, and I'm able to be better, for the people who are around me, my loved ones, like my family and my significant other and my friends. And I'm not as angry as I used to be, or I'm kinder, or I'm becoming a healthier version of myself. And we would think that everybody around us should celebrate that, should really encourage that process, and also want to engage that process with us. But the reality is, initially people get a little afraid of that, and it's on an unconscious level. This isn't a conscious event for people. It's not like they say consciously to themselves, "Oh, you're bettering yourself in your life, and you're showing up for me in a better way. Stop doing that," right? That's not the way it occurs for people. But our nervous system is kind of wired against change, right? Our nervous system is really wired in such a way that the brain wants to maintain status quo. And no matter what status quo is, that's what occurs as familiar and safe to people. And so when we change our way of being, that occurs as a change, not just to us, but those that we care about and that care about us. And initially, the fight or flight senses go off, and they say there must be something wrong, because this is different. You're behaving differently. You're not doing what I'm accustomed to. I don't really understand why you're changing. And initially, my brain, or their brain, is going to perceive that as a threat, simply because it's outside of the norm of what they're used to and what they're accustomed to, even when you're changing for the better. And so what's important here is not to try to get the people around you to change with you initially, right? Don't try to get them, to do the training with you, to take on the diet plan with you, or whatever it might be, right? Don't try to convince them they should manage the finances differently right away. What's so important is that you simply own it for yourself, and you step into the new dynamics and the change that you're aspiring to, because it's going to produce the results and the outcomes and the life that you really strive for. So often people come up to me and my team after our Power Series programs, and they're so excited about and enthusiastic about the change that occurred for them over the course of a weekend, and especially for those that engage the training for a period of time, 3 months or 6 months. Some people engage it year after year, and it completely redefines who they are and their life, and they get completely different outcomes, and they want to share that with the people that they love and they care about, because they know it would be of great service to them as well, and they want to go tell them about it, right? And usually the best way to get people to engage with us, especially if we want them to be on a path of transformation and development with us, is to not try to convince them they should be doing something. Because if we've ever had that experience of somebody wanting you to do something, it's like it somehow triggers this inherent impulse to do the opposite of whatever the person wants you to do, for whatever reason, right? And so instead of trying to convince somebody they should do it, simply be the change that you're striving to be. And so if you're looking to create greater vibrancy in your body, you just start eating differently, right? And when the person says, "Why aren't you eating sugar anymore? Why don't you want a dessert? Why don't you want to snack with me anymore?" And they kind of like want you to go back to whatever it was that you did before. just continue the course, right? Just say, this is making me feel better, and it's totally fine that you're doing what you're up to. I'm going to make these changes because I feel better when I make them. Or same thing, if you're following a new financial plan or strategy, same thing. You want to make sure that you just follow the plan, even if the person that you're with, and even if your finances are inherently tied together and they're not on that plan with you right now. Maybe it's, hey, I'm just taking on a positive attitude, right? My attitude is the thing that's different. I used to be a bit negative and maybe cynical. And instead of being negative and cynical, I'm really inside of positive affirmations or a sense of gratitude, and I'm happier, I'm more joyful. And so maybe the change that you're making is really an inner change, an inner dynamic in terms of your personality and the attitude you're carrying to your day, and you're inherently training new emotional access and new experiences for yourself, and you're bringing those new experiences and that new representation of yourself to the people that you love, to your environment, and to your network of folks. And so we would think that if we bring ourselves as this inspired, passionate, grateful person, that individuals will embrace that fully because it's a better experience for them, right? It's a better experience of who we are. And a lot of times that's just not the case because, again, it's like, wait a minute, we used to kind of bicker together and we used to argue about things, and that created a sense of connection. And that's just what I've become used to. That's what I'm familiar with now. And now all of a sudden you're not willing to kind of tug that rope with me anymore. As I say oftentimes, in order to play tug of war, right, like with a rope, it requires two people. If one person is tugging on the rope and you just let go of your end, all of a sudden they're just flopping the rope around by themselves. That's not much fun, right? They're just holding their end of the rope, and there's nobody to sort of wrestle with anymore. And so initially that feels like a sense of absence, right? Or it feels like a sense of disconnection, and it's just unfamiliar. And so the key is, no matter what the changes that you're getting inside of, nutritional changes, exercise change, financial dynamic change, inner changes like I just spoke to, no matter what change you're creating, the person now has this new stimulus in the environment, right? And so you don't have to go to this individual and say, hey, come do this training with me. You don't have to beg them to do it. You don't have to bribe them to do it, right? The key initially is literally just show up in the new way of being that you're committed to, right? Show up in the way that you know is going to drive you to the life that you want to create, the outcomes that you aspire to, and inherently the dream that you have for your life. And initially, as much as it would be nice to have all the people that we love and we care about and that care about us champion our commitment to change, right? And encourage that and champion, an idea or a vision for the life that you could create. Most of the time, people don't initially have people champion them. They don't usually have their closest people in their life encourage that change, right? Believe in that new dream as being possible. A lot of times they have doubt, and they encourage you not to pursue these new things and not to change your dynamics because, again, their unconscious self and the chemistry of their brain, the neurology of their brain is saying, wait a minute, I need to maintain status quo because that's safety and that's how I survive. And so even though you're committing to change for the better, a lot of times that those around you are going to get triggered by that, going to get activated by that. And if you look to them for support, right, and you're looking to them to encourage your process toward the life that you could create and the changes that you could make, most likely you're going to fail. You're not going to get there. You're going to fall short of what's possible for you, what you deserve to have, and truly creating the best life you could ever know for yourself and those that you care about. And so the key is rely on yourself first, right? And I know that sounds funny, but you have to be self-reliant as it relates to your vision and your outcomes and the results you want to achieve, and therefore learn to be self-reliant in making personal changes toward those outcomes, especially when, those around you or those closest to you aren't necessarily your advocates yet. But don't worry, because if you show up in a new way and you maintain it with consistency over time, that creates a new stimulus in their world. You become a new stimulus to your environment. You become a powerful influence. And individuals that care about you, they want to stay connected to you. They do, in the depth of their being, want to see you succeed, and they do want to see you thrive. They're just not used to the new realities yet. And so it takes a minute for them to acclimate to that and for them to learn, how am I going to interact with this new pattern dynamic that's in the space? How am I going to interact with this new way of being that wasn't there before? Because you changing literally forces those around you to change if they want to be in relationship with you, if they want to continue, interacting with you. And so this is a really powerful tool that you have at your disposal if you really do focus on self-reliance inside of the new pattern dynamics you're taking on and the changes that you're making, and stay consistent with them until the results occur. Because if you do that, those around you don't necessarily have to engage a formal training program, although it's obviously nice if they do, because you're a new reality, you're a new pattern dynamic, you're a new stimulus in the environment. And so they're going to have to acclimate and adopt to the new reality and the changes that have occurred around them. And this is just natural, right? In terms of evolution, in terms of how we grow as human beings, is we've been learning to change and adapt to our environments for thousands of years, right? And so the nervous system and the unconscious self knows how to change and adapt to new stimulus and changes in the environment. We just have to be that change consistently enough and for a long enough period of time to allow adaptation to occur. And the mistake that I see people make so often in the art of transformation and on a journey to self-mastery or creating the dreams of life that are possible for them is oftentimes they just don't give it enough time, right? They just don't show up in that new way of being long enough for the environment and the people around them to adapt to them. And so I'm going to say that again. We just need to be consistent in who we have evolved into and in that new way of being long enough so that the environment around you adapts to you. And so you just have to provide enough consistency and show up with in a long enough period of time for people to make that adaptation. It'll happen naturally. It'll happen, just by way of you literally being those changes, and then the individuals will take that on. And so again, it might be nice if people jump on a formal training program with you and come to like a Power Series training with you and do the practices with you. Like, of course, that would accelerate things, and you could be in partnership with the people in your life in that way. And many people, have those partners in their life. But the way to begin that process is, number one, be the change. And then just make invitations occasionally, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to go do this, Power Series weekend. It's called Power of Focus or Emotion or Intuition or Vision or whichever program you're coming to, and just make the invitation. Hey, I'm going to go do this thing. I'd love for you to join me and come check it out, right? It'd be awesome to have your company there with me. And just make an invitation for them to accompany you. And when you make that invitation, it presents an opportunity. And they may say no thank you at first because they're more interested in whatever their current, routines are, whatever that is for people. And don't take offense to that. Don't get, feel like it's hopeless or that the person's never going to evolve or that you're just going to grow apart and the relationship's going to end, right? That's the fear that often comes up when people begin to grow and change, is they go, man, I'm growing and I'm changing, and the people around me, my friends and my family, my colleagues, my coworkers, they're not, right? They're continuing as who they are. And I'm feeling a little bit of a disconnection there. I'm feeling a little bit of a space there, a little bit of a gap there, or a little disconnected there, and less relatability. And that can be a little scary, especially in the beginning. But it is that lack of relatability, and it is that space that becomes that stimulus to encourage change and evolution to occur. And so the key in that space is do your best not to get frustrated. Don't feel hopeless. Don't feel betrayed or angry that the person doesn't want to, make these changes for themselves and isn't willing to support you. Although it's natural for all those emotions to come up, be aware of them, try not to act on them, and instead just invite them along the path with you. And so as you go to a program, hey, would you like to come do this weekend with me? Or, when you're doing your Power Series class, and you can invite your friends and your family members to attend that class with you, once per class. You have this guest pass, just invite them to a guest pass. Hey, would you come to check out this Power Series class that I've been doing? I think it'd be fun to do together. Would you like to do that tonight? And they'll say, no, thank you. They may say, no, thank you 10 times. Then just invite them again. Hey, would you like to come to a weekend with me? It'd be awesome to have you there. You can make a little trip of it. We can have some fun of it. Like, let's go do the weekend together, and we'll take 2 extra days and we'll go explore the mountains of Colorado. We'll go ski or hike or check out a national park or something like this. And just invite them along as you would any other, event in your life. And if you do that with consistency over time, it might be, right away. Some people jump in right away. They might come to the next program with you. It might be in a few weeks. It might take 6 months for some. Some people, they've engaged training for several years, and I get emails from their spouses and from their friends and from their bosses, and they say, man, I don't know what you're doing with so-and-so, but the changes are amazing. Like keep it up. Thank you. But it's not for me, right? And they may never come. Like some people, they never come, but that's okay, because if you really do own the space, people are going to adapt to you, and your environment is going to respond to you, especially if you are transforming yourself and your way of being. It's just a matter of time. And so worst case scenario, the people in your life don't decide to engage in formal training in the way that you have committed to better yourself. And, that's okay. Just hold the space and be consistent. And what you will find is that in time, they are going to change. They're going to evolve, even if they don't engage formal training. And that's a good thing, right? And then if you make that consistent invitation, I would say most of the time they're going to come check it out, right? It might be a few months. At the most, it might be a few years. But if you make the invitations and try not to pressure the people in your life to come, a lot of times they're going to do it on their own. And sometimes it's just timing, right? Like maybe right now they're just not at that place where life is such that they are committed to changing it. Like a lot of times we have to get that place of challenge, or maybe a life circumstance presents itself to us where we stop and we look around and we go, man, it's got to be different. I know there's something different possible than what's happening right now. And so maybe it's just not their moment. Maybe it's not their time. And so, if you hold out and you're just consistent over time and you make those regular invitations, so, a lot of the times timing just ends up being right a little bit later, and the circumstance present themselves in a way where all of a sudden it didn't make sense for a person before, and now it makes sense for them to engage and try something new and something different, because they're either really inspired to create something that they want to know for themselves, and maybe that inspiration is inspired through you because they see you doing things for yourself and they see you creating new outcomes and new realities, whereas all of a sudden they're like, oh, maybe it is possible, because they see you achieving new realities. And sometimes it's just you achieving new realities that gives the people close to you permission to believe in those new outcomes and something different is being possible for themselves. On the other side of the coin, maybe they have a tough time at their job, right? Maybe they have trouble in a relationship, right? Something with family goes down and it presents a particular challenge for them. It presents a particular hardship, if you will, and they want to learn how to manage that hardship. They want to find a way out of that discomfort that they're experiencing. And so sometimes it's like circumstances present the right timing, and then you just happen to be going to a program, and so you invite them with you, and they can be a friend of yours, right? You just refer them, and they come, and there you go, right? They're on the path, they're on the journey with you. I find sometimes people initially check it out together, and they kind of take the journey together. Sometimes a person comes and they might invite a friend or a family member, and they come a few weeks later. They come a few months later because they see the changes that have occurred for you. Other times it takes a little bit longer, right? It's like, man, you've been doing that inner matrix thing for years. and it seems to really be making a difference for you, and your life constantly gets better. And all right, I'm like, I want to understand what it is. Like, what is this thing that you're doing? And 2 years, 3 years later, they show interest and they decide to jump in. And so again, don't try to convince people to take action as you're on your journey of transformation. Just own it for yourself. That is most important. Truly, is number one. Give yourself permission to fully believe in your dream and the possibility of life that you want to achieve as being possible for yourself. That's number one, is commit to your dream no matter what. When I first started my journey on a transformational path and decided to better myself and create a life better than the one I knew, and I started to aspire to a dream beyond the life I knew, I didn't have any support in my life. I had to rely on myself and just commit to believing in that dream because it was something that I knew I wanted for myself, period. And then, I looked to people to be encouraging and support my journey. And there was a time I didn't have anybody supporting that. There was no friend, there was no family member who was advocating for my choices, my decisions to grow and change and better myself. But then you fast forward several months later, several years later, when they saw the person that I was becoming and they saw the new results that I was getting, all of a sudden it gave them permission, right? And then permission turned into advocacy. Permission, turned into belief in themselves and their visions. And eventually I had a whole, team of people around me who not only supported and encouraged me, but believed in the vision that I was creating and that we were creating together on all levels. And so it all starts truly with you. And so be the change that you must adopt to achieve and create the vision for your life that you aspire to, and then stay consistent with that. And then from there, make invitations to those that you love and you care about to come check things out with you. Hey, would you come to a Power Series weekend with me? It's only $200. You can do the whole weekend. And just invite them as a friend, invite them as a guest. If they say no, thank you, don't be discouraged by that. Just invite them, the next time that you go, and eventually it'll be the right time, the right moment for them. And remember, even if they don't come, if you really do nail it and you really become a different person, a different version of yourself, that's a new stimulus. And it's only a matter of time before those around you adapt to you and your environment starts to adhere to you. And so let's make that huge leap and that step from being, basically defined by our environment and our world, being a byproduct of our environment, and start to decide who you're going to be. And then let's have your environment become a byproduct of you. And that is true mastery, is when you commit to who you're going to be, period, end of story, and your environment adheres to you by way of you being a powerful influence in the world. And so looking very forward to seeing you at the next program. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And remember to make those invitations to those that you care about to invite them along the journey with you. And if they say no, thank you for now, that's okay. Just nail that change that you're committing to becoming, which will then foster the vision of life that you choose to achieve.